Hey, this is MovieGuy 2005 once again. Welcome back to another video as I continue my marathon of John Carpenter movie reviews. And this time it's going to be a movie review on the 1978 horror film, Halloween. That's right, the movie that started an iconic franchise. The one that started it all, the night he came home. Alright, let's start with the plot, shall we? So basically, the plot concerns Michael Myers, who 15 years ago when he was a kid, he murdered his older sister Judith Myers, and he gets sent to a mental hospital where he stays there for 15 years. And 15 years go by, he's now all grown up, and he escapes the mental hospital. And what happens is that he goes back to his hometown of Haddonfield, Illinois, where he stalks and continues his killing spree. And he particularly stalks Laurie Strode in the movie, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who she's like a babysitter of a little kid named Tommy. And his doctor, or his psychiatrist rather, Dr. Loomis, it might be the same thing, but he tries to stop Michael Myers from continuing his killing spree, basically. So that's pretty much what the plot is. I remember this was actually the very first John Carpenter film I ever watched. I watched this on VHS a while ago, and I did a review of it a while ago as well, but now I'm re-reviewing it for this John Carpenter marathon. And yeah, this is still one of the best horror movies of all time, just exactly like I remembered. It's of course very iconic. The John Carpenter score is amazing, which is par for the course for a lot of these movie reviews, is that the score is just great. Michael Myers is one of the most iconic horror movie characters ever. And really good acting, great performances from especially Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasence. Jamie Lee Curtis, she would go on to be in Prom Night a couple years later, and The Fog a couple years later, also directed by John Carpenter. And she would also be in Terror Train, which I haven't seen Prom Night or Terror Train, but I might give those a watch at some point. I hear they're pretty decent, so might give those a watch at some point. And she was in the Arnold Schwarzenegger film True Lies, and she was in Freaky Friday and the recent sequel Freakier Friday. And of course she returns in Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, Resurrection, and the recent Halloween trilogy, Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Ends. And Donald Pleasence would of course go on to be, he would go on to be in Alone in the Dark in 1982. He would go on to be in Escape from New York in 81. But he's probably best known for Dr. Loomis in the Halloween movies, particularly this movie, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, 5, and 6. Because in 1995 he passed away, sadly. And that was the last time we got to see him as Dr. Loomis was in Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers. But he was also in the James Bond film You Only Live Twice as Ernst Stavro Blofeld, which I believe, if I remember correctly, I think that was the villain in James Bond that inspired the Dr. Evil in Austin Powers. So, yeah. Great direction by John Carpenter as well. Pretty suspenseful. I really like the atmosphere. It's very suspenseful. And yeah, I mean, what more could be said about this classic that hasn't already been said before? And I feel like it's kind of worth mentioning since it kind of feels appropriate. I'm talking about this movie again. There's actually, I think, if I remember correctly, there's, I think, 2 new Halloween games coming out soon, which is awesome. And I think John Carpenter's involved in them, which is really, really cool. I'm actually pretty excited right off the bat because, of course, John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors ever. And I think he's just going to be maybe the executive producer on them, or something like that. Or something like that. I believe the last time we ever had an actual Halloween video game was 1983 on the Atari 2600. Which, of course, was the same console that had the infamous E.T. game, but that's a whole different story. But, yeah. Halloween is just an absolute classic, and I can see why. Spawned multitude of sequels. Like I mentioned, Halloween 2. Halloween 3 is not part of the Michael Myers saga, but that was like the one where they tried to do something a little different. And of course, Michael Myers returns in part 4, and then so on. Like 5, 6, Resurrection, the Rob Zombie. No, 5, 6, H2O Resurrection, my bad. And the 2 Rob Zombie remakes. And of course, the recent Halloween trilogy, Halloween, Halloween Kills and Ends. It's just a masterpiece of a movie. I absolutely recommend if you haven't seen it, especially if you're a horror movie fan, and if you're, like me, a John Carpenter fan as well. So, yeah. Definitely one of the best horror movies out there. I recommend it. Yeah. So that concludes my review for Halloween. Let me know in the comments what was the first John Carpenter film you ever saw. And always remember, thank you guys for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video in the near future. Peace. I also wanted to mention Happy Halloween, y'all. Later.